Welcome to Transform Today and Do It Again Tomorrow. It's a podcast devoted to non-woo-woo wellness to help you get unstuck, take your life off autopilot, and just have more fun and enjoy yourself by being your authentic self. And we do the work here to help you figure out who that is. Who are you? Be a self-aware person who knows what you want out of life. This is episode number 12. It's 7 ways to care for yourself so you can care for others. Hey, it's me, Rebecca. I am your certified life coach, and I focus on overall wellness and creating balance in your life. So life coaching, it's kind of new. It's not totally new, but it's gaining more popularity and awareness. It's a mix between therapy and action. So therapy focuses mostly on your past. You kind of unpack things and discover how you feel about your past, whereas life coaching looks at where you've been, who you are, what your experiences are, what your emotions are. It looks at everything, the whole picture. But the big difference is it implements action. Okay, we're talking about how you feel. Now let's do something about it. So that's why I love it. It meets you right where you are. It treats you as a unique individual, and it talks about, what do you want to do about it? So we've discovered these things that make you feel stuck, that make you feel like your life is kind of lukewarm, you're on autopilot. Now, what do you want to do about it? I'm not going to tell you what to do about it, but together, let's create a game plan. So that's what life coaching is in a nutshell, talking about where you are, how you feel stuck, and creating an action plan. So again, I said we focus on overall wellness and creating balance in your life. That word balance, you've probably heard that a million times in pop culture, like, oh, I just feel like I'm out of balance. So what does that mean to have a balanced life? Well, just that, like everything is kind of working together. I think of life as like different buckets. I always like to create images to help it kind of come to life for you. So if your life is a bunch of buckets, you've got all these categories, right? You've got your finances, your health, your career or volunteering, your family life, your friends, spirituality. I can't remember what else I said. but my point is all of these buckets. So you can add whatever bucket you need to have happiness in your life. You don't just draw from one bucket to be happy, right? If you focus all of your attention on your career, for example, you put all your coins in that basket. If all of your attention is spent at work, your family life is going to suffer for that, right? There's imbalance. Now, it's only you who gets to decide how much attention you put in each bucket, right? It's never going to be totally equal. You can't spend as much time on your health that you do at work, right? Nor do you need to. That might be like 20% of your attention goes to your health, whereas 30% of your attention goes to your job. I don't know. It's up for you to decide. But the point is you have to check in all these different buckets to create holistic happiness. It's a lot of different components. So when we talk about balance, we're just talking about checking in with yourself and realizing what's missing. What am I craving? What am I spending too much of my focus on and creating a detriment in another area? And it takes self-awareness to do this, right? That's why people complain they feel like life is on autopilot because they're not stopping to check in. They just feel like, man, I'm getting dragged around. I'm so busy. I don't even know what I think or want anymore. The whole point of life coaching is to figure out this balance. Do I feel like things are kind of off? And what can I do about it? So balance just means simply that. Is my life kind of filling all the different buckets that are important? So today, speaking of buckets, I want to talk about, man, it is so great to serve others, right? That's a big bucket, part of our bucket list, not bucket list, but bucket agenda of life. You have to fill that bucket of serving others. You might think like, I'm just not a person who likes to serve others, but I'm telling you, there is scientific proof that serving others is a huge ingredient to feeling happy, feeling like you have a purpose. Like, okay, I'm going to work, blah, 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 it's boring, but can you find your purpose in serving others? When you can do that, it's a great, wonderful, fulfilling life. So it's great to serve others, but today we're talking about how it becomes kind of toxic to our health if we continually put ourselves last, if we're always serving others and never paying attention to what we want. Serving others, a really wonderful thing, can really go downhill to a slippery slope into being the thing that runs you into the ground. So putting all your coins into that bucket of, I'm going to serve others, that's what fills me up, yay, yay, yay. If you do that over and over again and you never make a deposit into your own bucket, that bucket might be hobbies or leisure, spirituality, friends or fun, whatever you want to do. If you're constantly ignoring that bucket, the bucket of serving others, it gets too heavy. It's too much. So too much of a good thing, that's never a good thing. So I have a heart for caregivers. I love people who care for others. And that's really all of us, isn't it? I mean, we all care for someone in some capacity. But people like parents, nurses, first responders, teachers, man, I'm all about them. I love how people pour into others. Especially now, I was thinking about this today on the way over to the studio. We live in a culture where the focus seems to be more on, I want to work from home, I want to be my own boss. Like, we don't love to serve others in person anymore. That seems to be something that people like to avoid at all costs. We want to stay home, we want to do our own thing. So when I see people looking people in the eye in person, serving them like a teacher, like a nurse, like a cop, like a first responder, when they do that sacred, to me it's sacred work of serving others in person, ooh, that's a wonderful thing. And I want to do all I can to uphold them and serve them. I'm kind of like the person behind the curtains, supporting them so they can support others. So on that note, I recently did a workshop to help serve caregivers, and a group of hospice volunteers attended, and it was so powerful. I feel like I learned more from them than they did from me. There were women who, they were older, 70s and 80s, but they were so full of energy, you guys. They were so lifted up by serving others. So they didn't really need much from me from the workshop, but I know that they wanted to take the information and give it to other people that they work with. But they all agreed they love to serve others, but they did admit sometimes it's hard to say no. It's hard because it is so fulfilling. It's almost addicting to serve others. But then you find yourself in this corner of man, I keep forgetting to say no. I keep forgetting to set boundaries. And I love it. It fills me up when I serve others, but I need to figure out also who I am. So that's why I love serving caregivers, because they need to really remember it is important to pour into yourself so you have something to pour into others, right? And I do notice how depleted it can be to serve others. I've seen teachers who are run down, nurses who are just man, I can't do this anymore. I've got nothing left to give. They give and give until they cannot give anymore. We hear about burnout all the time, right? It's nothing new. And it's nothing to be ashamed of. It just makes sense. If you're constantly outputting without caring for yourself, the thing that you love to do, serving people, turns into the thing you start to resent and get angry about. It shows itself in a person who's lost their light, right? You think about a teacher who they used to love what they're doing, and now they're oh my gosh, 10 more years till I retire. Their purpose has lost itself. They're just going in for the paycheck. They become angry or exhausted or just depressed. Or nurses. I think of this example when I was a kid. I love nurses. I've had so many nurses who have left such an imprint on my heart for how they cared for me. I was in the hospital a lot as a kid. I had hip dysplasia, so I had several surgeries to repair it. And I was in a body cast when I was 13. I've talked about this before on the podcast, but I was in a body cast in the hospital, totally just recovering from that. They took me out of the body cast the night before. So I was in a lot of pain. When you are in a body cast for 2 months, all of your muscles atrophy. I didn't know that until I was in a body cast. First time for everything, right? This is not common knowledge. So I woke up in the middle of the night and I was just in pain. My body was aching from head to toe. And I called the nurse in, and she was a nurse who was burnt out. She was just done. And she was like, what do you want? and just like treated me like I was being annoying and a baby. And I'll never forget that. I'm not mad at her. Even at 13, I was like, I think she's tired. I think this lady's burnt out. But that's how being burned out comes across. You could be someone who loves your job. You love serving others, but the person who's coming out is not the person you're proud of. It's the angry person. It's the exhausted person. It's the resentful person. It's the person who craves some attention and gratitude from others, but she's just not getting it. And that's what I've experienced in the past. Another example, I don't want to just point out examples where everyone else is failing. I've been bad at this too. I was an English professor in the past. I've been a mom forever. One time that sticks out to me, when my daughter was 4, she's now 16, but she was 4 years old. I was a single mom. I was totally exhausted, working a full-time job. She was trying to pour herself a bowl of cereal, and I was exhausted. I just remember it. I was like, oh boy, just pour your cereal already. And that she was fumbling around with it. And I exhausted. I exhaled. I was like, give me the box of cereal. And I poured it for her. And I exhaled. And her little voice, she was like, I'm sorry, Mama. I mean, I would do it myself if I could, but I'm just too little. A dagger in my heart. I was so convicted. I was like, you are a big butthead. Like, why did you just roll your eyes at your daughter? Why didn't you have more patience? It's because I was exhausted. I loved caring for them, but I was just running myself into the ground. So that's how it comes across, right? We've all been there. We love serving others most of the time, right? But it becomes exhausting if we're not getting what we need to give to them. So I hope this resonates with you, and I feel bad if it does resonate with you, but know that you're not alone. Literally every human being has been like, I've got nothing left to give, even though I want to. So it means it's time to take a step back and figure out, okay, what do I need to best serve others? You're not in this alone, for sure. And sometimes, I heard about this recently, I can't remember where, but people talked about, I think it was a podcast somewhere, they said the care that you give to others or the way that you treat your spouse is often what you're craving to get in return. So you might love your spouse in a way that you're like, oh, I kind of hope they would love me in this way. This often can be true in how we care for others. We might really run ourselves into the ground to be like, I'm going to care for you the best I can. But is that because you're wishing you would receive that same kind of care, right? It feels good to serve people, but a part of us sometimes might still be hungry to receive that same care. So think about that. Maybe that's something that's deep down in your soul. It sounds a little woo-woo and out there of like, oh, I'm giving the love and care out to the world that I wish I would receive. Maybe that's true. It's very, very common. So today we're talking about how do we make sure we care for ourselves as we do care for others. I want you to walk away with these tips that will really help you if you slow down and actually do the work. So we've got 7 steps here. The first step is very easy. It sounds like it's easy, but it's often pushed to the wayside. And that's just pay attention, slow down, and check in with yourself. If you're feeling off, that's the telltale sign of one of your buckets is out of balance. You're not paying attention to something. So sit down, check in with yourself. Where do I feel off? Am I hanging out with my friends enough? Am I serving people too much? What about this don't I like anymore? It's not for me to tell you. It's for you to figure out. So how do you do this? How do you slow down? The good news is you don't need like this fancy retreat or a day getaway. You need about 10 minutes in the morning to meditate. Now, meditation gets a bad rap. People think like you have to sit there for hours and clear your head. You're never going to clear your head. That's wonderful. Meditation is all about confronting what's in your head and being at peace with it and listening to the thoughts as they come to you. So if you take 10 minutes every morning, you're going to really feel a shift in your life of like, okay, I understand what I need now. I know what's bugging me now. It doesn't mean that's a magic wand and you know how to fix it, but man, information is knowledge, is power, right? Knowledge is power. So once you slow down to figure that out, you're going to have a better roadmap of what's next. So meditation, slow down, take a walk outside if you have to, but do this every day. The way you serve others is so wonderful, but a way to serve yourself is to check in with yourself. And I think about it this way. It's a little bit corny, but I think about the little girl I used to be. She's still inside of me, right? I always say that adults are just transportation shells for their inner child. Who's inside of me? What does she still want? Why am I ignoring her? I'm going to check in and see, what does she want? Most times it's something very small. I just want to play a little bit more. I want to have more fun. I want to play the ukulele that I keep saying I'm going to, but I don't. I want to cook a nice meal. Little things can go a long way towards changing your happiness. But to figure out what you want, you got to pay attention. And it's hard when we're busy, right? It's hard when we're outputting and serving others and go, 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 go. Slow down, pay attention. Can you give yourself 10 minutes? I know you can. You definitely can. That's number one. Number two is feed your fire. I always like to think of like this. People say fire in your belly. I think of like, this is weird, but like a wood burning stove in your tummy. It's so weird. But I picture people like opening the door to their tummy. I hate that word tummy. It's so like, ooh, tummy. But say stomach. What is inside your stomach? Like what kind of fuel is in there? What kind of logs are you putting on the fire? It should be logs of things that you love, of joy, of motivation, of happiness, of like, yeah, serving others. But if you're not careful, the fuel that you put in your gut, in your fire, the fuel becomes things that are negative, and that's what's going to show to others. And as you fuel yourself, I want to remind people, you can't hide behind caring for others as an excuse to not do the work you need to do in your life to reach your potential. Moms are real guilty of this. Like, oh, I can't. I'm busy. I've got my kids. Oh, I can't. I'm sure you could, but you won't. I'm talking to me here too. I'm not preaching. I'm just saying, like, we often say, I'm just so busy because I have to care for others. Well, we don't want you to do that. We want you to care for yourself. So don't hide behind that excuse of, I'm just too busy because I've got to care for all these people. Feed your fire. What fuels you? What kind of logs are you putting on the fire in your belly? That matters. So other things that could feed your fire are your hobbies, being outside. Again, that goes back to our other episodes talking about your values. What do you value? Do you love music? Do you love yoga? You got to make time for those things, so that's what's burning in your gut, okay, as you serve others. Otherwise, what comes out is like the nurse example I gave you of her serving me with a ton of attitude and resentment, and she didn't want that. She was just really tired and worn down. She didn't put the right logs on the fire. So number one, pay attention. Number two, feed your fire. Number three, self-care. But self-care is bigger than a manicure, okay? And what I mean by that is you just see stuff all the time on social media or anywhere. They talk about self-care looking like Netflix or a glass of wine or a manicure or they call it retail therapy. Is that what people say, retail therapy? Yeah. But that's not self-care. That's fun, but that's short-term, surface-level fun. That's not nourishing at all. That's not self-care. Self-care is when you nourish your brain. You get into really good habits, and daily habits change who you are. That's long-term self-care. So self-care, when it includes your values and your goals, that's going to land in a more meaningful way. So what do I mean by that? Okay, so self-care, so for example, you're talking about drinking a glass of red wine, watching Netflix. Man, I love that stuff. That's great. But let's not call that self-care. That's just self-soothing, right? That's a better word for that, self-soothing. Self-care that includes your values and your goals. We talked about this before, your values, things that mean something to you. Along with your goals, that's going to be something that might be harder to start, but going to lead to longer lasting results. So say, for example, I have a goal right now. I'm going to write a book, and I am in the midst of writing a book. If I work on writing a book in my spare time, it's going to be harder to do that than to do the Netflix and the red wine. But that choice is more nourishing for my brain, my soul, that fire pit in my gut. Man, that's going to put a good log on that fire if I start writing the book rather than always watch Netflix and drink red wine. That self-care is bigger than just the self-soothing. So think about how you define self-care. Are you going home? Are you sitting down, watching TV for hours? Okay, that feels good, but that's just like junk food for your brain nonstop. You need a little salad for your brain today. So reconsider your definition of self-care and see if you can't kind of nudge yourself towards better habits. And then eventually these habits turn into, like I said, who you are. So you don't need the willpower to start going back to that. It just becomes who you are. Self-care. Think about that. Number 4, this is hard. Get good sleep. I thought of this one because the other day I had a horrible night's sleep. It was the worst. I think I slept like 3 hours. And that morning I went to work. I got my kids to school. I was just like, man, life is hard. Like I just did not feel right that day. So if possible, get your good sleep. Turn off your phone. Don't watch TV till all hours of the night. Manage your time wisely if you can. And again, people are so busy. I know some of us have 2, 3 jobs. We're caring for others. We're run down to the ground. So stand on your business, man. Get it all together. Map it out. Map it out hour by hour if you have to. Figure out where your time is going and make better decisions for sure. So get that good sleep, but also what are you putting into your body, right? You're eating your vegetables or you're drinking your water. Don't obsess about it, but also it matters what you put in your body. Just like it matters what logs you put on the fire in your belly, it matters what food you're putting in your stomach. It totally matters. You are what you eat. That's an old silly phrase, but that is just so true. If you take some time to figure out what food you're putting into your body, it's going to help you in the long term and to get better sleep. So those are all very important things. These are the things you're telling the people you care for, right? So that's number 4. Get good sleep, eat some healthy stuff. Number 5, set boundaries. I'm speaking mostly to women here. We kind of stink at this, don't we? We get into these habits of like, oh, you need me. Okay, yes. Kind of feels good to be needed. And I think we get addicted to that feeling of, oh, they need me. Yes. It feels so great to serve others. And honestly, some of us feel like that's our calling. We really feel like we're called to serve others. That's awesome. And I'm here to celebrate that. But when it becomes the thing you do all the time to avoid your own life, that can suck the energy from you, right? We have to learn to say no. And we can't hide behind serving others. We're like, oh, that's just what I do. But are you doing it to avoid the work you have to do in your own life? Are you serving others constantly so you don't have to talk to whoever you want to avoid in your life? Are you serving others nonstop because it means you have an excuse not to eat healthy or exercise, right? So set boundaries. Say no when it's infringing on your sanity and your health and your joy. It's okay to say like, man, I'm just too tired to do one more thing. That's wonderful. That's your soul telling you, come on, make some time for me, man. I miss you. Like, say no. Set boundaries. Number 6, that's kind of the same thing. Ask for help. That's what the hospice volunteers told me that they kind of struggle with. They kind of struggle with asking for help. They just love doing for others so much, but it feels weak and vulnerable when they have to ask for help from others. That's probably the number one thing I hear from people, from moms that I've coached before. They're like, I just can't ask for help. But why? Why is that? You got to unpack that. Sometimes that's because we kind of crave validation and recognition from others. We love it. And moms, especially, I'm sorry, I don't mean to pick on you. I am a mom, so I'm picking on me. We crave when people say, man, I don't know how you do it all. You're just so busy. You're such a rock star. You do it all. We love when people say that, right? Man, I would love it if someone told me that. So when we ask for help, we feel like, I'm letting people down. I'm very weak. I'm not doing the rock star thing. I'm not serving everyone effortlessly. So asking for help is difficult, but think about it. When you ask for help from others, you're admitting to them, hey, I need you and I value you. When someone asks me for help, I shouldn't say never, I almost never see it as a bother. I'm like, oh, thank you for asking. I would love to help you. And it kind of opens that door of giving permission of, hey, we can ask each other for help. And it's an empowering thing rather than a weak aspect or a vulnerable aspect. It's like, yeah, no, I see you and I need you. Yeah, I see you and I need you. Ask for help. It's empowering. Okay, number 7, this is the last one. This is kind of speaking to mindfulness and being present. Treat each person you serve as if they are the first and only person you're going to serve that day. Okay? This kind of helps you avoid burnout. Rather than being overwhelmed at your 8-hour day or 12-hour day if you're a nurse, take it moment by moment. Okay, this person, I'm going to act like they're the first and only person I have to serve today. You take a deep breath and do the same thing for the next person. It kind of helps you shake off the last moment, take a deep breath, and have fresh eyes and new energy for the next person. That's not to say our days are not exhausting, but this is just a quick little life hack to tap into mindfulness, being present and thinking like, what does this person need? How can I be a good listener for this person? How can I make this moment be the most important moment of both of our days? How can I be present? So if you have fresh eyes, think about that. Burnout is going to happen less, right? Because burnout happens when you're like, God, it's the same thing day after day. I can't do this anymore. You forget to see the purpose. You forget to pause and remember, why am I doing this work? How does it matter? Why does it matter? So when you pause to have those fresh eyes, it can breathe new life into you. And again, that's not to say your work is not exhausting, but this definitely can help kind of breathe new life into you. Okay, so those are the 7 things. We'll go back over them real quick here. So number 1, pay attention, slow down, check in with yourself, see what you need. Number 2, feed your fire. What are you fueling yourself with? How are you putting those logs on the fire in your belly? Are you doing your hobbies? Are you eating right? You having fun? Are you hanging out with your friends? Redefine self-care. Self-care is not self-soothing. Self-care combines your values with your goals so you can reach bigger goals in your life and not just always serve others, but also be things that you can be proud of that you have done. Self-care, rethink it. Number 4, get some good sleep, eat some healthy foods, get some exercise, manage your time, just getting those good, healthy habits, daily habits that lead to a different you. But sleep, that's so important. Number 5, set boundaries. Say no. It's okay. No is not mean. No is good. It's being honest. Number 6, ask for help. Let others in. Remember, when you're asking for help, it's not a weakness. It's an empowering thing. And number 7, treat each person you serve as if they're the first and only person you're going to serve. Try to have fresh eyes for the work you do each day. Okay, I hope that helps you a little bit today. I know, like I said, there's no magic wand in life coaching. It's not like, do these 7 things and you're perfect. Nope, do them all today. As you have a hard day at work, slow down. Try it today. Try it tomorrow. Slowly see a difference in maybe 2 weeks and like a month and be like, oh, I'm actually doing the stuff Rebecca talked about. She's kind of annoying, but I'm actually listening to her, and it's slowly starting to change my mindset. So whether you're a parent, you're a teacher, first responder, nurse, anyone who's caring for others, I hope these 7 steps are going to give you some relief and new energy. I really, really do. I do love serving others. That is my calling in life. I want to share this information with you. I've felt it, I've experienced, I've studied it, I've learned all these things, so why would I keep it to myself? I want you to benefit from these things. Don't just listen to it, try it this week. And thanks for the work you're doing to lift others up. I love that. I appreciate that. And I celebrate that so much. The world needs more helpers, more in-person helpers. And if you'd like to work with me one-on-one to kind of figure out how to get unstuck in your life, You can always do that on my website. It's RebeccaRhine.com, RebeccaRine.com. Again, I'm a life coach. I focus on wellness and purpose and potential and just truly having more fun by having a more meaningful life. So reach out to me there. I'd love to chat with you. And as always, I want to encourage you to kind of sit in silence for 10 minutes and write down what you're craving in your life. Ask yourself what you've been ignoring as you care for others, right? What are you forgetting about? It could be the way you eat or the goals you've been ignoring, anything. It could be that you maybe stopped making time for your friends and now you're feeling that imbalance. Set a timer and write about it. I'm telling you, you're going to see what your gut wants you to know, but you got to slow down, and putting pen to paper or fingers to the keyboard, that's always the best way to pull out everything that your heart and your soul are thinking. So please do it and be surprised and be like, wow, I really am feeling these things. Knowledge is power. Get that knowledge out. So thanks for listening to Transform Today and Do It Again Tomorrow. Leave a comment on my site or on the episode to tell me if there's anything related to wellness you'd like me to talk about on the podcast. I'd love to share my knowledge, my insights, and my experiences with you and make this a great conversation. We are all in it together. You're awesome. Be well.